Hello and welcome to Norwood Wesleyan Church online. This is Pastor Phillip Telfer and I'm glad you could join us. Our church in Edmonton, Alberta is dedicated to reaching for God together. We welcome you along on the journey and we hope our time together encourages you toward a more meaningful and personal relationship with God. Last Thursday was Alex's birthday party, and last Friday was my wife's birthday. And so we decided for my wife's birthday we wanted to celebrate some quality time together. So naturally we dropped off Eli with the grandparents, and then we took off. We ended up going to West Edmonton Mall to spend some time together. We spent a few hours at the mall, and we started our time by looking for a mall directory. It's a pretty big place, and you can get lost. At least I can get lost pretty easily. And so we wanted to make sure we knew where we were going because there was one stop that we knew we wanted to fit into our time at the mall. We wanted to stop at the maternity stores. They have two, is what we found on the directory. And we wanted to stop there because we're preparing for Kyla's belly to continue growing along with our child, which we have now found out is a girl. We're having a girl, yeah. So we're pretty happy for that, yeah. So we wanted to stop by these maternity stores. We went by the directory to find out. We found where they were. We went to one, and then we kind of stopped halfway through on our way to the second one to look at the ice rink because there were some kids playing hockey down there. Little tykes playing hockey against each other, and that was kind of fun to watch them for a little bit. And we went to the second maternity store. After that, we moseyed on to our favorite store in the mall, which is Chapters. And we took quite a bit of time moseying through looking through their different books selection, and we looked for a plush toy for our baby girl, one that was similar but different enough to be unique for what we got compared to what we got for Eli. We got him a plush toy, so we wanted to get one for this girl too. And I always try to stop by the game section in Chapters as well. So Kyla amused me, even though it was her birthday outing. We stopped and looked at games. And then we went to a place to eat. It was a restaurant called Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. I would highly recommend it. It's actually really good, based off of Forrest Gump, and it's all themed. It's pretty fun. U.S. plates all the way around, and it's just, kind of a unique setting. We enjoyed that, and we had a good time. We celebrated her birthday and just appreciated the gift that it is to share life together. And then as we were leaving the mall, I was commenting on how special this place is, West Edmonton Mall. It's like especially for parents, it's like a one-stop shop where you can get anything you need, and you don't have to take the kid in and out of the vehicle. It's a beautiful thing, especially for parents, right? And I think the only stores that I would add are a Walmart, a Costco, and a Canadian Tire. And then I think you're set. I think you've got everything you need. You don't need to leave. West Edmonton Mall is a standalone attraction for the city. It's Edmonton's most valuable piece of real estate. It's estimated at $1.3 billion without the merchandise. That's not fully furnished. That's the empty building, $1.3 billion. It's the largest mall in North America. It has the world's largest indoor lake and indoor amusement park. The mall has over 800 stores and service providers. It employs over 24,000 people, 20,000 parking spots, 10,000 overflow spots, which you'll find at Christmas time. Alberta's most popular tourist site for the province. This is the most popular tourist site. It attracts between 90,000 and 220,000 people every single day, depending on the season, yeah? So averages around 90,000 people every day. That's twice as many as Disneyland. So it's a pretty big deal. Brings in an average of $1,000 per square foot of space, and it's a pretty large building, so that's quite a bit of money, in the billions. It's a big deal. I share these statistics about the mall to draw a comparison between a person that spends a day visiting West Edmonton Mall, just imagine that, maybe you've done it, compare that picture to a human that spends a lifetime on Earth. The human journey of life is similar to walking through a giant mall with each store representing a different season of opportunity. Each one is a different season. We don't have time to visit every single store or eat at every single restaurant, and we don't have the money to buy everything we like in the stores that we do choose to visit or everything on the menu in the restaurant that we choose to visit either. But we do have enough time to look at the directory and strategically select a handful of stores and services and activities to include in our visit in this journey of life. Today I want us to ask ourselves a question. Ask ourselves, which doors are worth passing through in this life? Which doors are worth passing through? Which stores are worth visiting? We've been tracking through the story of the Bible, and we left off with a group of people called the Israelites. They were being led through the wilderness when we left them last time by a man named Moses. He was leading the charge. And this large group of over 1 million former slaves of Egypt, they were indirect recipients of a promise that God gave to a guy named Abraham 600 years earlier. And the promise was to make these people into a great nation and to give them a specific piece of land in a place called Canaan, which became known as the Promised Land. They referred to Canaan as the Promised Land. It was the land of promise, a special promise that God gave to Abraham and his family, which included these guys that were trekking across with Moses in the wilderness. So in the Old Testament books of Numbers and Deuteronomy, toward the beginning of the Bible, we read that God led Moses and the Israelites to a point in their journey where a decision needed to be made. And that decision was whether or not to walk through a specific door that God was opening. Do we walk in or do we not? If you have your Bible with you, please turn to Numbers chapter 13. Numbers chapter 13. I'm going to warn you from the beginning that this is a rather long section of Scripture to read through on any Sunday, but I think it's going to be worth it, so please try to track through the story with me. We're going to start in chapter 13, verse 1, and we're going to end at nearly the end of chapter 14. So hang on there. And we're going to skip a few verses in between, but it's going to be most of it. So Numbers chapter 13, verse 1, if you want to shut your eyes and try to imagine it, do whatever you want to. It will be a little bit lengthy. Here we go. The Lord said to Moses, "Send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites." Okay, that's a very important verse. Send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. From each ancestral tribe, send one of its leaders. So, in verse 3, at the Lord's command, Moses sent them out from the desert of Paran. All of them were leaders of the Israelites. That's verse 3. Skip down to verse 17. When Moses sent them, we didn't read their names because they're confusing. He sent them, the leaders, to explore Canaan. He said, "Go up through the Negev and on into the hill country. See what the land is like and whether the people who live there are strong or weak, few or many. What kind of land do they live in? Is it good or bad? What kind of towns do they live in? Are they unwalled or fortified? How is the soil? Is it fertile or poor? Are there trees on it or not? Do your best to bring back some of the fruit of the land." You see, it was the season for the first ripe grapes. So they went up and explored the land from the desert of Zin as far as Rehob toward Lebo Hamath. They went up through the Negev and came to Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, who was a giant, Anak lived. Hebron had been built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. Or 23, that's where we are. When they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off a branch bearing a single cluster of grapes. 2 of them took 2 people to carry it on a pole between them, along with some pomegranates and figs. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes the Israelites cut off there. At the end of 40 days, they returned from exploring the land. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. There they reported to them and to the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land. They gave Moses this account: "We went into the land to which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. But the people who lived there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the Negev, the Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live near the sea and along the Jordan." Then Caleb silenced the people, another one of the guys that went out there. Before Moses, he silences the people and says in verse 30, "We should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it." But the men who had gone up with him said, "We can't attack those people. They're stronger than we are." And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, "The land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." That night, all the people of the community raised their voices and wept aloud. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to them, "If only we had died in Egypt or in this desert. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land, only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt?" And they said to each other, "We should choose a leader and go back to Egypt." Then Moses and Aaron, the leaders, fell down, face down in front of the whole Israelite assembly gathered there. Joseph, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, both who had gone in there, who were among those who had explored the land, tore their clothes and said to the entire Israelite assembly, "The land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and he will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will swallow them up. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them." And we're going to skip again, down to verse 26. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "How long will this wicked community grumble against me? I have heard the complaints of these grumbling Israelites, so tell them, as surely as I live, declares the Lord, I will do to you the very things I heard you say. In this desert your bodies will fall. Every one of you, 20 years old or more, who was counted in the census and who has grumbled against me, not one of you will enter the land I swore with uplifted hand to make your home, except Caleb son of Jephunneh and Joshua son of Nun. As for your children that you said would be taken as plunder, I will bring them in to enjoy the land that you have rejected. But you, your bodies will fall in this desert. Your children will be shepherds here for 40 years, suffering for your unfaithfulness until the last of your bodies lies in the desert. For 40 years, one year for each of the 40 days you explored the land, you will suffer for your sins and know what it is like to have me against you." And we'll stop there. Finally, some of you say. That's the story. It's the story of the spies going into Canaan, this promised land, to search it out and come back with a report. One leader from each tribe. There are 12 tribes, so 12 guys go out. They spend 40 days looking. They come back. 10 guys have a negative report, and 2 guys have a positive report. And then the 10 guys basically spread this negativity around the people. The people refuse to go in. And then there's a punishment that results for their lack of willingness to go through the door that God was calling them to enter. Have you ever been in a place where you had multiple doors in front of you? You have multiple options of decisions to make. This is every day, right? We always have, it seems like, we have opportunities to make different decisions. But there are key points in our time, in our journey through life, in this walk through the mall, where we have different stores, different seasons, different opportunities that call out to us. And we can go one way, but we can't go two. We have multiple doors that are open to us, but we can't pick both or multiple doors at a time, just one at a time. I think high school is where this can hit us. Maybe all of us have experienced the high school graduation season where you're like, oh my goodness, now what? For me, I had 3 options. I had 3 doors, and many of you had different doors. My doors were the Marines. I had an opportunity to join the Marines straight out of high school. So when my buddies did that, I had an opportunity to apply for university. I had another opportunity to enter the workforce, blue-collar kind of factory jobs. I had all 3 presented to me, and I had to choose a door. And I chose to apply for university. Then when I walked through that door, I realized that door had multiple doors as well, multiple universities to apply to. So then I had West Point calling me, who was the Army in the States. West Point was an option. IWU was Indiana Wesleyan University was another option. I applied and was accepted, so I had that door open to me. And the other one I applied to was Oklahoma Wesleyan. I grew up as a Wesleyan kid in the church, and my dad was a pastor, so it made sense for me to start by applying to the schools that I knew, and then depending on what the results were, to branch out from there. So I had these 3 open doors, West Point, IWU, and OKWU, and I had a decision to make. So I went through Indiana Wesleyan University. I decided to attend that school. My sister went there, so it was kind of fun to be able to study together. And then I had another opportunity to enter more doors, and that was the major. What are you going to study in university? That's another question they ask you. Well, a lot of people are undeclared for a long time. They just, I don't know. There's too many options. There are too many doors out there. I don't want to pick one. And I knew that I had a passion for sports and for people. I actually had a very specific call or sense of call to return to Africa. And if you know my story, you know that part of it. But I had this direction toward Africa and with sports and with people, something that I found and continue to find meaningful. And so I had that in the back of my mind, which helped me pick the doors up to this point in my life. And then I had physical education as a major and pastoral ministries as a major. And Indiana Wesleyan University, I chose that university because they had a unique combination of the two, kinesiology and theology combined in a unique major that they presented, and that was sports ministries. I said, absolutely, that sounds awesome. So I did sports ministries with a minor in youth ministries, and that's what I studied in college. Then after I graduated from college, I had more doors open themselves up to me. I had job doors. I had a pastorate opportunity in New York. I had a factory job in Missouri and an internship opportunity in Atlanta, Georgia, teaching opportunity at a seminary or Bible school in Mozambique, and I had an athletic director opportunity at an international school in that same country of Mozambique, and that was including sports and ministry. So it was a no-brainer to go to Africa, right? That was my direction. So I left the other ones on the table, or kind of scooted them off of the table, and went through with this athletic director position. And then there, I had another door open to me that was a relational door, and that was to date a particular girl. And in my life, I had many different doors that I had opened and walked through a little bit, but different girls over different seasons, and I ended up choosing to date Kyla, and I fell in love with her, and that was an amazing year, and afterward, I was like a magnet. She was a magnet to me. She pulled me up. I'm her African-American souvenir. And so that pulled me up to Canada. And so that was another door that I chose. And it was really easy because I had this sense of call. I felt called to Africa. And then in that year, I felt a very specific call to Kyla. And it was super easy to commit to her and to follow her up here to Norwood Wesleyan Church. So the unique combination of doors that I have chosen since high school have led me to this moment in my journey of life. And the unique combination of doors that each of you have chosen, you've passed through, have led you to share this moment in your journeys with me. They're all unique, different doors in different seasons. You can only choose one at a time. Here at Norwood Wesleyan Church, we have a very special door that has opened up for us this year. Many of you have noticed that in addition to our family meals, extra food has been placed on the bench downstairs. It's on a table today, and that's overflowing with fruit. It's downstairs, and this is for people, food for people to take home. Even after they enjoy a meal with us today, there's extra food to take home. This food is the fruit of a connection our church has been able to make with an organization called Loop Resource. It's a food reduction agency that connects supermarkets like Save on Foods. That's our hub market. It connects supermarkets with local farmers and charities to reduce the amount of food that is thrown away each day, usually at supermarkets. And so every Wednesday and every Saturday for the last couple months, church representatives from Norwood Wesleyan Church have gone to the stadium branch of Save on Foods on 82nd Street and 112 Avenue, and on an average, they have returned with 10 to 20 totes of food, 10 to 20 Rubbermaid bins full of food. The equivalent of that. It's like $600 to $1,000 every time they go, full of food. It's just a ridiculous amount of food that they've been collecting for the last 2 months. Every Wednesday and Saturday, those are our pickup days. An average of 10 to 20 totes of food are thrown away each day at these stores, and we have been able to reclaim that food to help put together our family meals, as well as creating hampers for people. And if like food is kind of like spoiled or not appropriate for humans to eat, we even collect that food, and we collect it and we send it home with Becky for her farm animals. So we're reducing this food waste. It's all going to good use, right? And I am convinced that the timing of this connection is not coincidental. It's an unprecedented opportunity. They just opened their store. We jumped in the first week. Becky was actually the very first pickup from the store. It's a remarkable opportunity for us. And I believe it is a door that God has opened for us to pass through as a church seeking to meet needs with love and compassion. I believe that Loop Resource is a Canaan-like opportunity for us. So Moses, he sent 12 spies into Canaan for 40 days, if you think back to the story that I read earlier. Moses sent 12 spies into Canaan for 40 days, and over the last 8 weeks, close to 40 days, we have had a handful of volunteers going to Save on Foods, exploring this incredible opportunity. Now, similar to the spies that came back with a massive cluster of grapes that it took 2 guys to carry, our volunteers have returned with vans full of food and an amazing report of the food that is to be collected and can continue to be collected through this program. And their summary is the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. It's a bunch of food, awesome opportunity, great door, but we need more people to help us make it a sustainable ministry at this church. So for this reason, I'm closing our message time today with an appeal for our church family to rise up to the challenge and to step through this open door together. There is no harvest without hardship. That's what these guys found in the story, and they're like, nah, those guys are big, there's a lot of people, it's a tall task, and we're not willing to take that on. So they decided that it wasn't worth it. No harvest without hardship. There's no such thing as free food. It takes work. This doorway comes at a cost. It's going to take much more than a handful of volunteers to pull this thing off. And how we respond to this and other open doors in each of our lives will mark the rest of our journeys that we take. Just one of the many doors that we might have in our lives. And it's up to each one of us to decide which doors are worth passing through in this life. With that said, I want us to think back to West Edmonton Mall, the picture of comparing a person at the mall, spending a day at the mall, to a person kind of going through life on earth. How will we choose to invest our time? If we only get one day at the mall, where will we go and what will we do? Will we choose to camp out at the movie theater? Some of us are already doing that. Sit in front of a TV? That's our life, right? We're already choosing to do that. That's an option. That's an open door. That's up there. That's at the mall. But some of this is running from reality instead of facing our fears. And so I want to push back on that. I want us to fight for real and meaningful connections. Not to say that a movie here and there isn't bad, but to isolate ourselves from community is very dangerous. Will we choose to camp out at the movie theater? Will we park ourselves at the bar? Some of us are already doing that, right? We're filled with pain, and so we just want to numb the pain. We don't want to deal with the pain. We want to feel the pain. It's too much work. We've tried. We can't trust people. We've already tried that over and over and over, and so we're going to park ourselves at the bar and try to numb this bad feeling. I want to push back on that because I think that pain can be an arrow to a call. I think that pain can teach us how to protect ourselves and to protect others. And I think that experience, as negative as it has been for you, as difficult as it is for you, that might actually be a key to the door that God is opening for you. That's unique to your call because it's unique to your experience. Will we spend money on ourselves? Some of us will. We'll go to the stores. We'll buy clothes. We'll buy makeup. We'll buy accessories, expensive purses and stuff to keep up with the Jones. Maybe the Lamborghini. We'll go in for the lottery there. It's a McLaren right now. I like it. But we want all this stuff. We're going to buy the stuff. Why? To cover our insecurities, to build ourselves up, because we don't believe that we're valuable without these things. I want to push back on that. Because if we're created in God's image, we're created with intrinsic value that doesn't matter what we have on. It doesn't matter what we drive, where we live, what job we have, who we're connected to, how we look. It's there because that's how we've been made. It's intrinsic. But that's one way that we can spend our time in the mall. We might spend our time in the mall making or trying to make the mall of humanity a better place by investing in others, celebrating and supporting the potential of new life and young life, like parents shopping for their kids or people I saw coaching young hockey players, pouring into the next generations, even strangers stopping to cheer them on from a distance. Some of us may even choose to spend our time working, over 24,000 employees at that mall, right? Some of us might work. Some of us might even volunteer. We'll work for free to care for and feed the members of our human family by doing what we can to meet their needs with love and compassion. Now, when the Israelites were presented with this open door to Canaan, the promised land, it was a promise that they knew. They'd known for 600 years. And here it is, the open door. They refused to walk through it. because they didn't trust God to take care of them. And that did come with a consequence. The 40 days of exploration became 40 days of wandering, 40 years of wondering what could have been had they decided to trust God. 40 years of regret for every parent and 40 years of punishment for every child. Caleb and Joshua were the only two leaders that didn't die in the wilderness. Even Moses and Aaron fell, and Miriam. What have we missed out on before? Reflecting back, I haven't taken the perfect doors, I'm sure. There are better doors I could have taken, right? Different doors I could have taken. My story could be a lot different. But I've chosen the doors I've chosen, and I need to start from right now. It's unhealthy to live in regret, but even to reflect very briefly, what kind of opportunities have we missed out on before? And what can we miss out on today if we fail to go through the open doors that God calls us to pass through? What open doors do we have in front of us right now? And how are we going to respond? In faith or in fear? Of all those questions, the most important question for us to answer is related to God's call. Which door is God opening for us and for you? Instead of asking ourselves if passing through an open door is going to be easy or manageable, we should ask if it's clearly God's will. And that's the most important question. Life in Africa wasn't easy for me. Married life isn't always easy for me. Life in Norwood hasn't been a cakewalk. But wherever life gets difficult, I find strength and hope and perseverance when I remember the call that I feel. The call that I felt to Africa after high school, the call that I feel to my wife, and the call that I feel to serve here at Norwood Wesleyan Church. Harvest doesn't come without hardship, but every seed comes with a call, every single one. And that call includes the power to break through its shell, to pass through the barriers, to blossom into a harvest. Is God calling us to loop in or to loop out? That's the question. If he's calling us to loop in, will we? Are we going to dare to loop around? Because if we dare to loop around, that opportunity might not be there when we get back. And we might not be there either. So a challenge today is to trust God enough to walk through the doors he opens in your life. Trust God enough to walk through the doors he opens in your life. Like I said earlier, I believe that this Loop resource opportunity is a gift for us to use. I also believe in supporting the church family where it needs it the most. And so I want to highlight two ministries right now as we close our time. I have two sign-up sheets behind me on clipboards. I'm going to pass them around with the offering plate. And the first one is for Loop Resource. The reality of our situation with Loop Resource is that door will most likely close if we don't get more volunteers. More volunteers to keep it going. It's a great opportunity, but if we don't have the people, we can't keep it open. The second area of opportunity for volunteers is our children's ministry. Both of our leaders in children's ministry and the Loop program have called for our support as a board. And in our last board meeting, we had both of them asking for help. And so we recognize the need, and we present it to you today with an opportunity to keep each going with extra volunteers. So as we close with the final song, I'm going to leave two sign-up sheets. I'm going to actually pass them around for us today for you to consider signing as you ask God to show you which doors he is opening in your life. Don't let me try to, don't listen to Philip's voice. Listen to God's voice, It's unique to who you are and what your experience is. Let God lead you. And if you don't want to sign up, hey, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Follow the peace. Follow God's voice, not mine. The first one is a Loop resource sign-up, and it comes with two slots. The first is a pickup slot. And if you sign up for the pickup slot includes showing up at Save On Foods on a Saturday, somewhere in between 4 and 6 p.m., ideally with a vehicle. We need people with vehicles, we need drivers, and we need people who would be willing to be trained to know how to do the pickup. That's one slot, is a pickup slot. Not to say that you have to have a vehicle to be part of that pickup. You don't have to. If you're interested in it, put your name on the list. The second slot is the sorting slot. The sorting slot is where they bring all the food back to the church, they unload it, and they sort through it. They sort through what is good for people, good for animals, and so they sort that and separate it right off the bat. Then they go through and they sort what's going to be kept for the Sunday meal, and then what's going to be put in hampers. And I'm willing to open the door for hampers to be an expectation. If you come and help with sorting or pickup, expect to receive a personal hamper to go home with if that's a personal need. If it's not a need, then don't let us know, and it doesn't have to happen. We can use it for our meal. We can give it to somebody else. But that's a fair expectation. If we have more volunteers than we have food for hampers, then we'll cross that bridge when we need to. But right now it's an open door, and we need extra volunteers. So those are the two slots, the pickup slot and the sorting slot. The second opportunity is for children's ministry volunteers, and there are also two slots for that. The first is the children's church slot. We need people to be with Eleanor downstairs during the meal from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. So during the service time, there's a children's program going on downstairs, but oftentimes our leader is kind of overwhelmed with the workload, and she needs extra eyes, extra helpers. And so if you're interested in that, that's the first slot for helping with children's ministry. The second slot is the family meal slot. So during the meal time, 12:30 to 2 o'clock, we need supervisors up here for the children during the meal and make sure that they're safe, and just to keep things going and to encourage them and to encourage our leader, Eleanor. So those are our two clipboards I'm going to pass around as we close. And the biggest question is to trust God trust God enough to walk through the doors that He is opening for you. Emphasis on call. So as we close, I'm going to invite our ushers to come forward and get the clipboards and get the offering plates. Nick to come up. He's going to play a song. I'm going to close with a word of prayer as we head into our offering time. And the clipboards will be going around for you to consider putting your name and information on there as well. Let's pray. Dear God, I do thank you so much for how you love us and how you present us with different opportunities throughout our life. I thank you for this door of Loop resource. God, I ask that you would have your way with that particular connection, that you would be with us in our needs, regardless of what happens, God, that you would continue to meet our needs with love and compassion, that you continue to move us to meet the needs of people that we meet along the way in our houses and along the streets and wherever else, God. I think of the story of the talents, and the guy who gave 10 to one and 5 to another, or 5, 2, and 1 to different guys, and the first 2 went out and doubled it, and then the last guy, he took his talent and he buried it in the ground. And at the end of the story, when the guy comes back to see what they did with it, the guy with 1 is reprimanded, and he's actually punished for not investing well, for not walking through the door that God had presented. And I ask that we wouldn't make the same mistake as that guy in the parable did, or that the Israelites did in the Promised Land, opportunity 1. And I just thank you for your grace that will be with us no matter what happens. And I just ask that you would continue to lead us, speak to us, meet us with exactly what we need, and guide us even now as we sing a final song together. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for listening to Norwood Wesleyan Church online. If you ever find yourself in Edmonton, Alberta, I hope you can stop by for a worship service on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. And when you do, be sure to stay after for our family meal. This is Pastor Phillip Telfer, hoping you can join us again as we continue reaching for God together.